Okay, so you always want to calibrate, even in Metaspace, right? Pretty much everything is the same as if the person was present, with the exception that the demographics, you want to fill them out as completely as possible. So there's some vectors to that person, in place, because the energy literally has to find them.
Mm-hmm. Well, shouldn't you be using the correct birthday then?
Should you use what?
The correct birthday.
Well, I don't know how important the birthday is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Lelaine, what I'll do is, so you can do the points and you can do the meridians. I'm going to do the meridians because opportunity to explain the color coding better. The points you check down here, and there's 360 points. Okay, checks. When you do the points, I always just do the default, which is the color coding. In the meridians, it shows it's a little easier to observe not just the very high reactivities, but also the low ones, the bottom ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right, let's toggle the picture here so we actually see the meridians rather than the points. Point in case is like so this numbering system here goes by, 50 is balanced, 100 is extreme overcharged, hot, and extreme low is undercharged and exhausted and low energy. And so obviously, so your highest is 67. So your problem is more undercharged, lack of energy. Probably both extremes mean blockages. I would not go after the default because they're very close to 50. I would go for the extreme low energy, and let's just do a 1-minute feedback just to see how much it corrects. Okay, and so I look at it as we're always removing blockages, but we're also pumping energy into that meridian. Incidentally, that meridian does go through your neck,
Yeah.
I don't know if it has anything to do with your neck pain, but since you do have neck pain, let's do some other stuff. Let's go to the chiropractic panel too.
Okay.
Because that's what this is all about. You can do all these things, of course with the harness system, but you can also do them in Metaspace or virtual, and it's a powerful tool and it works. And I mean that's what matters, So in 1 minute, the small intestine has, harmonized or rectified, as it's called here, 47%. So you always want to go up to close to 100. But this, I just want to demonstrate this. So so just for the fun of it, let's check your spine, okay?
Dr. Stroud, could I ask a quick question over on the meridians? Down lower where it says upper right, upper left type thing, how many meridians are programmed into those that would do like the left arm or the right arm? Do you know? Or is it only like one meridian that it picks to do the quadrants?
No, these quadrants are pre-programmed feedbacks, and they involve several, if not all, meridians. So basically, the only thing that matters is, left quadrant is left shoulder, left upper quadrant is left shoulder, left lower quadrant is left hip, and then of course there's the head.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so in the chiropractic thing, it's the same principle. The high numbers mean just, subluxation and heat and hot and high energy, inflammation. The low numbers are also important. What they mean is more, they also mean, subluxation potentially, but lack of motion, and just being stuck, lack of vitality, So in case, again, it may be more important to do the low one than to do the high ones. Okay, so let's do that for a minute. So cervical 1 and cervical 5 are very low. So, and then the sacral, interestingly enough, are low too. Huh. Okay, so that's what I would work on. I would work on cervical 1, cervical 5, sacral, and occiput.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Do you notice that they're both at both ends? Like if you've learned chiropractic, there's kind of a relationship of
and cranial sacral.
Spine goes to the bottom of the spine.
Yeah, the cranial sacral too. I do that, so that totally makes sense to me.
So now, unfortunately, we can't do a full therapeutic session here and then ask you, so how you doing? You feel any better? I'm just kind of explaining, how to employ a Metaspace virtual treatment.
Dr.
I'll work
Strauss,
on myself and report back.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
I
hey,
have-
you have an IMAET, so just scan yourself. All right, 40%. So, you would want to get these things above 85 for sure, but get them as close to 100 as possible. So I would do cervical 1, I would do cervical 5, and I would do occiput and sacral.
I do feel a little bit of a shift, actually.
Just from that 1 minute?
Yep. I'm pretty sensitive. I can.
Right. So if the spine is actually the focal point, you can always go to this panel because a lot of times there's emotional issues involved and follow up with an emotional treatment.
Mm-hmm.
These are very basic ones that are related directly to the back. If you have the emotions are much more detailed, like in the emotional panel here, you have 321 emotions just in the emotional stress category. So if anybody needs some emotional support, I mean, this is the thing you want to be doing, and this is hugely effective. And so don't forget about the emotional panel because some emotions show up in the allergen panel.
Can I just ask a question? Do you go there to the green one, to the low one all the time? I always thought that green was
No,
good.
I actually never done the low one. However, as you evolve, as you develop your art, it's a good point. You know how some people are emotionally inhibited, and that's actually a problem. We usually always deal with, problem like overly this and overly that. But it's taken me a bunch of years, but more and more, and we'll get to that later because the genes I end up looking for at the bottom also.
I missed how you got to this panel.
Oh, well, you get to this
Out of the
panel.
neuro?
No. So to the neuro-emotional panel, you can get independently from here.
Okay.
But you can also, because it's directly tied to the spine, potentially or frequently, you can also get directly from the spine panel here.
Okay.
And by the way, from the spinal panel, you can also get to the dermatomes here. Right? That's the only way to get to the dermatomes is from the spinal.
I actually meant the individual emotions that you have. Oh, that's the emotional panel?
Right.
Got it.
So that button goes to the emotional panel. And since we're here, you got 4 categories, each one which you can test or scan independently. And then you've got this category down here, the emotional transformation timeline, which have individual things like little categories are very interesting. You can see it down here. Okay, ascendant stimulation, which means helping somebody to pass on if it's time to go. And clairvoyant stimulation and euphoria, and I mean, these are incredible frequencies that are very highly researched. And anyway, it's important to know that they're there because in very specific situations you may need them, and you may, in fact, a lot of people need to do this intuition stimulation to get back in touch with intuition. Because so many things, you can't always, I mean, if you think you can rely on experts, then just look at what's happening right now. I mean, literally, these experts, they're leading us off the cliff in a very, very serious and very disturbing way.
Dr. Straley, can I ask one more question about that panel? I typically run either the top 3 choices or the top 10. Is that what you would usually do, or?
Well, I don't do that many emotions all at once. The most I've ever done is 3. I usually try to narrow it down to 1, sometimes 2. The maximum I ever do is 3, but that's me. It seems to me that the body responds very well to precision. If you try to do everything all at once, it's just more confusion than focus.
Well, but, no, I don't mean necessarily using it as a treatment, but just to identify. Would you run just to identify what is there? Would that give you more information versus just identifying the highest reaction?
Oh yeah, it's not always number 1. That's another thing. It's not always number one. It may be number three, you know, that needs to be. So that's where the intuitive thing comes in. So as you know, I use and I teach muscle testing for that. You can use other techniques. You can develop your own technique. You can just meditate about it for 30 seconds, whatever. But you do, and I highly recommend to evolve or develop your intuition. And in fact, I just found a new thing. I've never used that one. This frequency right down here. I'm gonna try to use that, and maybe you guys can use it and tell me how effective it is, or to get out of a negative, thought pattern and so on and so forth. So these little things down here, you can't measure them. They're only feedback things, frequencies, but they're incredible specialty frequencies. And in fact, under mystical processes, this one is, and it works. I know from my own experience, it helps if somebody is really ready to pass. I mean, you can't force it, you know, but if somebody is ready to pass, and sometimes they struggle, you know, for another day or two or three, you know, they can't breathe, you know, there's no coming back. It's like, this helps them to pass. And you do that actually in Metaspace. You know, you have to do that in Metaspace. You don't want to hook up a dying person to the harness. There you have it.
Can I ask a quick question again on the spine? Whenever the frequencies of what vertebra shows up as say maybe too low, can you also, are those frequencies kind of the same as what's in the reactivity for the spinal section? Because I know you have all the vertebra listed in the reactivity section as well.
Yes, the ones in the reactivity section are actually identical. The ones in the allergen panel are from a different source, and you know, they should be the same, but they may not be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So Ellen makes a good point. If you want to treat multiple emotions and you do the same thing with allergies and everything else and immune treatments, you want to look for similarities, you know, like you could do acceptance of female aspect in the same business because they're similar, you know. She says like rage and irritation, you could treat that together because they're similar. So you're talking about similar areas of epigenetic function. I want to do the allergen panel right now.
Could I get a clarification?
Yes.
I'm on the spinal panel. I'm wondering if you're looking for level 50 for balance, where lower than 50 is adverse and higher than 50 is adverse.
I better show that because. Okay. So remember we had numbers here like 5 and 23, and so those are the numbers, and that's true for all the panels, okay? Those are the numbers at the time of the scan. Those are your scan results. Now you're doing a feedback on occiput, for example, and then this number here, down here in the left corner, rectified, that's as much as the treatment has accomplished, okay? And when this goes to 100, you know, then you have 100% rectified, or this particular feedback has reached 100% of its effectiveness, let's say. It doesn't mean that the problem is 100% resolved, and now if you do another scan, this would be at 50. It doesn't mean that, okay? But chances are that if you scan this again tomorrow, that it won't be as low as 3.
Okay, I'm still wondering the general scan, when you scan it, do you want the numbers at 50 for balance?
If it's near 50, that means it is in balance, and you don't want to waste any time, particularly to put that in a treatment, because it's already in balance.
Okay, that's what I wondered. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're looking for the extremes, up near 100 and down near 1.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do this. So the allergen panel is the best panel for acute situations and for just everyday run-of-the-mill kind of work, you know, which is really what people need, except people that have had dozens and dozens of treatments. It makes a difference. You can see that they, you know, that their metabolisms are functioning better, their immune systems keep things cleaner, there's not tons and tons of infections in the top, and so on. So in other words, this is the workhorse of the reactivity panels. It's the most updated, most modern. The main reactivity test has a lot of older things on from, the 90s and the 80s. It goes a ways back. However, I'm rearranging a lot of these things because it has some other advantages. The main reactivity panel. I think I mentioned it before the recording that everybody wants the COVID-19 frequency in the software, and it is coming. But in the meantime, the immune system deals with viruses through their DNA and RNA. Okay, that's the entity that the immune system recognizes. And it just brings home the point that, all that communication is energetic. So the interaction between life, or let's call it the environment, and the DNA is an energetic one. And that's why this all works. And we can circumvent a lot of the physical concepts of incubation by realizing that we can communicate and give the immune system a heads up and a jump on things and shorten this is all my opinion, okay? This is just my personal and professional opinion. Shorten the incubation period. And as a strategy, I think it's probably what's going to happen in the future, or what would be a better strategy than the vaccination, because that will just provide a very narrow immunoprotection, like you see in a flu vaccine. That's why you have to do the flu vaccine every year. And it still is only, 50% in apostrophe protection. And that's kind of what they're turning this coronavirus thing into, because it's not going away. I mean, it's here. And the only thing to do is two things: develop immunity or get your vaccine every year for the rest of your life. And we can really just process and speed up the process. This is Dawn. Okay. Do you have a dog?
Yes.
Well, because you got animal fungus here and you got dog hair is number one. Since we're working on an airborne, but we don't have to do this, but this is what I do. This is how I work pretty quickly, Of course, I have your chart. So if I've treated you for dog hair 10 times before, then I would say, well, that's just a lot of dog hair in your environment, and it's not really a problem. But in this case, I would put a airborne component here. The animal fungus is part of that. Sugar, anchovy, beans. Okay, so there's really, what I'm introducing is to look at both ends of the spectrum, as we just done with these other panels. So you want to do the same thing here. You want to look at, so there's some things that show up at the top, like allergies, like pathogens, like in the other panel, it would be acupuncture points. But neurotoxins, okay, well, it's a little complicated. So neurotoxins only show up at the top if they're a problem. So the question is, are we today focusing on detoxing neurotoxins, or are we focusing this treatment today about reducing neurotoxins in your body? And looking at the treatment so far, I would focus on reducing neurotoxins being produced in your body, because the detox treatment is a whole nother treatment. It's a different treatment. So let's start looking at the bottom of things. I'm just going to pull this whole thing down. Let's look at the bottom. So here's HERB2. So the genes that are not working right, that are literally sleeping, they show up at the bottom. So I would put in sonula. It has to do with the leaky gut and the tight junctions and blah, blah, blah. Basically, HERB2 is an oncogene, it repairs, it works on other genes in the prevention of cancer. So let's say this as a general phraseology here. We can put that, I would suggest to put that gene in. Now this one here, glial fibrinolytic protein. This gene encodes one of the major immunofilament proteins in astrocytes are in the brain, right? They're a brain cell. Let's put that in. I mean, astroglial cells support the nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. So if that gene is sleeping down here, let's wake it up. So that's kind of the strategy to do things at the bottom of, this is a functional scan, okay? All this reactivity scanning is functional. And these things are, so this virus here, well, we wouldn't put that in a treatment because that's good that it's down here. That's where you want to find all the viruses, you know, they're not happening. They're still in the database, but they're not happening. But the genes, if they're not happening, most genes, you know, there's exceptions and we need to learn more about it. We want them to work and we want to wake them up. Okay, so that's what we do down here. This would be a good treatment. So nagalase, of course, is kind of a quirk in the concept. So since, you know, I don't know whether to put that in or not. I don't like that that's in the scan result. I would probably put that in because it interferes. Okay, nagalase is an enzyme synthesized in and released from a cancer cell or a virus particle. It pinpoints, oh, it's, cheesy math. If you find cheesy math at the bottom, you would always want to put that in to wake that up, to get it going. I'm just trying to lead you through the thought process, you know, and you may not be quite as anal about it as I am, but those are the thought processes as you put together a treatment, you know. It's always first to no harm. So if you, for example, I think I would put nagalase, I would put it in the treatment. However, should you be not totally comfortable, then the rule is always skip it. You can always keep an eye on it. If it comes up again tomorrow or the day after or next week, you know, it will keep reminding you. And, you know, the neurotoxin thing needs to be resolved, but, you know, detoxing may be, you know, first you want to fix the leak and then start pumping out the water, right? So today we're focusing on reducing the production of neurotoxins. So we're skipping that, but the nagalase, I put that in. So this is an immune gene, but because it's fairly close to the top already, I would skip it because we already have 2 genes in here. One more word about amyloid plaque. Okay, ooh, wow. So amyloid plaque and neurofibrillary tangles, that close together. It's important to work on this. We were just talking about some glial cell thing. I think it's this gene here. Yeah. So you see how fibrillary acid protein, and here is neurofibrillary tangles. So just from my experience of muscle testing these 2 items hundreds of times, probably 1,000 times, they never want to go in a treatment. So this is just something you want to notice. Now, you know, there may be exceptions. You may want to put in the treatment, but generally speaking, it's the process that causes these things that you want to pay attention to, because it's hard to get rid of these plaque, but you need to stop the process. So that's kind of the focus that we're doing here. And then they will reduce over time, and you may even be able to put them in a treatment at some point. But today, right now, I would just focus on the process of stopping neurotoxins, stopping amyloid plaque formation. Okay. And by the way, these are molds, and there is, I think I saw some other molds. Not so much. This is a mold, even so it's probably an antibiotic, but it's a mold. But we're having fungus here, so I mean, theoretically, you know, we already have a fungal entity here. We could possibly add. Let's add these 2 fungi.
Dr. Straley, I have a question. So for example, there's like a lot of dampness I see maybe potentially with the fungus. So in Chinese medicine, at least, so like spleen, that's what I would think of in Chinese medicine as maybe the spleen or the lung, and how would I look for that here? Like, can I search where something is showing up? I mean, how far down do you go? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to sift through the whole thing, obviously, but.
Oh, no. I just, so I dug up these 2 molds here pretty far down, not too far. I wouldn't go much further than I just did, okay?
Okay.
Like this. So the top 30 is usually what I work in. All right, so I got your question, Lelaine. I'll get back to it. So what you can do here is, so this is a pretty heavy duty treatment. I wouldn't do that on a new patient, but Dawn has had many treatments before, so I think she can take it. You want to add as many as possible here from these combinations, okay? Probably all of them. And that's your treatment. So needless to say, you do that for 30 minutes or 25 minutes. Okay, you always want to do quick cycle. What the quick cycle does, it makes it cycle through, so give these more emphasis in here. You want to leave this treatment alone for 24 hours. You don't want to do anything else because you've just given the body a load of instructions, and you want to give it 24 hours to follow through with all that before you move on to some other. You don't want to Donald the body and change your mind every 2.5 hours about, like, now let's do this and now let's do that. It takes the body 24 hours minimum to execute these instructions. Okay, so Lalaine, let's see. So I'm typing, as far as this panel is concerned, I'm typing in spleen, and let's see what comes up. Okay, what comes up is lot. So this is kind of Chinese sort of frequency. Okay, the rest is more, organs and so on and so forth. So by the way this came up is in order of the scan results. Okay.
Okay.
So actually, the spleen, pancreas, self-esteem, control, that was the highest in a scan result. I don't know exactly where it is. It doesn't show where it is. You'd have to look for it. But because it is so high up, it's certainly something that we could add, because it makes sense according to self-acclaimed, acupuncturist here. So it's something you could consider, and that's how you kind of, sometimes what would be good to. There's other things you don't necessarily always just use what's in the scan. If you know something, like if we know that Dawn has chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and we're in a process of getting that resolved 100%, and it's been 2 weeks since the last time we had it in a treatment, then you would just add that, even so it wasn't in a scan, and you just type it in. Just type in EBV, search for it, and then there it is, and you put it in a treatment, even so it didn't come up in the scan. Good.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome, and you can do all this without even having the patient present. So you see why you have to charge the same amount as if the person was in the office. It's not worth less or anything at all. It's probably worth more.
Dr. Straley, this is Lori. I have 2 questions for you. One is in regards to where you just typed in EBV. I know in the past I've typed in Epstein instead, and there's multiple things that now come up. So how do you decide which one to choose? Do you go by what you were just saying, is that they come up as the top priority from that scan? Or do you follow whichever one you're saying that you've treated in the past? I mean, is there one more important than the other?
Well,
I mean, if you just type in Epstein, it gives you a bigger list than just putting in EBV.
All right, yes. Oh, isn't that interesting? Okay, so Epstein gives you the bigger list. This is the better list. Okay, here's the difference between these things. As you kind of become more familiar with the immune system, you will differentiate much more. You have to get away from the medical thinking, because they only deal with acute disease. They turned this coronavirus. The first thing they came up with is a name for a disease, COVID. The D stands for disease that the virus causes. It's the coronavirus 2 is what it is, and it causes a disease that they have named now COVID. So that's fine. It's just, that's all they talk about is. So basically, to not get too complicated, I would say this is the acute form of the virus, this is the acute form of the virus, and this is the chronic form of the virus. Okay, so that means the Epstein-Barr has been in the body for quite some time, and you may have to treat both, or on and off, one and the other. And I mean, I have chronic Epstein-Barr viruses. You can inherit question about from your parents, especially from your mother, but also from your father, for that matter. They live in your DNA, as you hear now with the corona. It goes to your DNA, it inserts itself, and it starts reproducing itself. And the Epstein-Barr is actually, you know, in my book, much more dangerous than the corona, because the corona makes you really sick. You notice it. Well, so does Epstein-Barr. It gives people mono. But then, and we haven't heard the last word about corona, even so, you know, Anthony Fauci is giving us a little preview. You know, it's definitely going to be around in the fall. You know, it's been around for 100 million years, so I'm sure it's going to be around in the fall. But if it goes chronic, which they call dormant, then it becomes really dangerous, because that's the main etiology besides toxins and poisons and things and radiation, the etiology of cancer. Okay, those are the main causes of cancers, chronic viruses. Okay, so chronic and acute. Let's just distinguish between those for now. And this is just like this one. The source came from NAET, and the source is from me. And this one, where this one comes from. So they're just different sources where the frequencies came from, you know. But basically, function or in practice, this and this is acute, and this is a chronic version of the virus.
And the last question I had was in regards to the scan that you just did on Dawn, and it was a heavy treatment bucket, as you said, that you would leave it alone for 24 hours and not doing anything else. Did you mean, as far as not doing anything else, you would not say go do a spinal panel on her, or go back and do, say, meridian panel balancing, etc.? You would just strictly do the allergy panel and not do anything else?
No. What you wouldn't want to do, like, for example, you wouldn't want to go to the main reactivity test right now and run another scan and do another treatment, okay?
Okay.
You don't want to even do this one here. This is a great panel too. Auto Cellcom, Trivector. You know, it has, it's a little different. It's a different database. It has 532 items. It's a great panel, but it's a place you come to after you've kind of reached after you've reached a plateau in these other functional panels. You would want to do this on a different day. However, you can do supportive panels, you know, like this would be supportive, you know, opening up the meridians, that would be supportive to the process that we started with the other treatments. You could do a chakra. You can do really any of the other panels, just not another reactivity panel, okay? Because these are not instructions. These are shifting around the energy generally, which will be helpful in allowing the body to accomplish this really rather, you know, this is quite the task here. This is big. This is a big treatment. Probably need to take a nap afterwards.
That's a monster treatment, like you said.
It is, and you might want to split it up into 2 days or 3 days, or just apart. So then, you know, if like you notice that there's some lymph stasis or some lymph congestion, of course, to do that is not totally. That's really just it's supportive. It's supportive to the general status, and it's not talking to the DNA. It's physically allowing the body to move the lymph, which will actually benefit the whole situation. So with Dawn, you know, we're really actually concerned about the brain. So we have anatomical places, so these are focus, which you could possibly add. Now, once you want to get sophisticated, you know, you can put a vector into the treatment by, let's say you would know that we would, you know, like I've worked a lot. Sometimes, you know, the problem is the brainstem, like with hiccups. Like I have a patient that has had hiccups for 2 years, and she's finally ended up at our office. I know that neurologically the center of this problem is in the brainstem, but you know, we go through the same.
I send her in. I could help you with her as well with a phrenic nerve, maybe.
Phrenic, yeah, we've done it.
Yeah.
Phrenic and Vegas.
Yeah.
All these things. So that's what I mean. You have all these frequencies at your fingertips, and then there's the biospecific is just conditions, really. Just be aware that these are there, okay? Doesn't really, Dawn, disregard my comment. You know, I didn't really, I do want to make you aware, so about, you know, paying attention to your neurological health functionally, and all you have to do is continue, not overdo it. It takes the body time to heal, okay? And like, this is a kind of treatment you probably want to leave that alone for 2 days. Break it up in a couple of different treatments, like do the airborne separate from the fungus, or, you know, stuff like that. But you can probably take it, but you may want to, and that's another thing. Okay, so if you're working on chronic Lyme or Epstein-Barr, so if you find that this is a really profound treatment, you know, some of those things you want to keep. So so let me save this, okay, in case Dawn asks me later what we did. You can always bring it back, okay, by double clicking on this date here. So let's say you say, okay, the dog hair and the dust we took care of, that's done. So this is tomorrow, okay? You've taken another scan. You're gonna leave the fungus in there. You're not satisfied. You're not sure that the bacteria is totally removed. You're gonna do a little bit more zonulin. And by the way, you may want to work on your gluten situation also some more. And you may want to add some probiotics to your regimen, Dawn.
I did all that. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's say those things you want to repeat. You say those are the most important. I'm going to repeat those. This is, let's say on Sunday when you come back to do this. However, now you want to add some other stuff. You want to add the corn sugar. You want to add soybean, ghrelin. By the way, we should put that in. And today you want to work on the neurotoxins, okay? So then you have another treatment on another day with just a slight different angle, but yet it still it still reinforces some of the main items you've done in the first treatment. All right, so I hope I didn't overdo it here. I consider you all as advanced, so you have to forgive me. I'm, you know, we're talking advanced level here. Okay, yep. Last questions here. A couple final questions.
How long will you advise to do the session after you identify what needs to be treated? The treatment itself, 20 minutes, 40 minutes?
Yes, anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes.
So even if you don't rectify to 85 and above, you don't go more than 30 minutes?
Yeah, I do. Even on myself. I mean, definitely in the clinic. I just set the timer at 20 minutes. And if it's, you know, if some of the items are already at 100 initially, I just keep them in there. I just let it finish. So the quick cycle is important, you know, to get to 100 a little faster. And if something hasn't cleared to 100% yet, then you wanna jot that down. You wanna repeat that in the next session.
So will you delete what I do? I delete the ones that rectify to 100%, so it goes, the quick cycle goes faster, or I can leave. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. You can do that. It's kind of a judgment. It's kind of a judgment thing, you know. There's not really any particular rule. I think that some of these things that we're doing here, I think that this together is more powerful than if you would do just one at a time. You know, like one today and one tomorrow and one Friday and one, oh, today's Friday, and one on Monday and one, you know. I think this, because I'm looking at this and I'm developing it as a language, literally an AI language, an artificial intelligence language that the technology uses to communicate with the body's essence. And I think it's more, and finding the right balance is a challenge, and it's something we're going to learn and learn and learn, and it's going to go on forever. I mean, we're just starting to do this.
Now, is there a way to put patient's saliva or some samples of the patient in the Metaspace on the interface box?
In Metaspace, the interface box is...
without the...
So what you can do, as a matter of fact, since we're talking about Metaspace, and you have a remote patient, you can have the interface box plugged in, okay? You have the interface box plugged in, but the harness has to be unplugged. You can't have the harness dangle in a room and pick up all kinds of bad signals. The harness is unplugged. You put the sample, whether it be a hair, a nail, saliva, urine, whatever they send you, on the interface box, and you do your scan, and then the treatment you would do in Metaspace. Feedback. Once you've decided what you're gonna treat, you would do the feedback in Metaspace.
And
that's a whole other technique. I mean, there's all kinds of techniques you can employ. That's a very sophisticated technique.
So Bernard, you're using a person's, like a piece of hair as a proxy for the person?
No, I don't. I don't have time. I'm struggling as it is.
But could you?
We do. My staff does a lot of Metaspace treatments, but we haven't even gotten to the place where we ask people to mail in samples. But I know it's being done, and I know it's very effective. That's just it. When it comes to energy, there is no 100%. There's always, you can always do it better yet, and you can always do it better yet.
But you can do it, because I have a rough time explaining to my skeptic patients how Metaspace works.
Well, yeah, well, I wouldn't bother. I would rely on the results. If you do a treatment, usually people can pretty much immediately tell. And
yeah, I have a question about that too, because I was trying to explain that to some patients, and they wanted some place to go and look to understand it. And I directed them to your website, of course, but I didn't really.
No, there's nothing about Metaspace, and I've been thinking about it, but the only thing I can offer you, and if you want it, please just send me an email. I have a link to an article at the NIH that a research paper, a research article, okay, where they published the results of such a study, where they've done the study and they have the results there, that it works. They use heart rate variability as the indicator, which is very popular in, it's a basic physiological function that you can easily measure. And that's what the research project is about, and people have repeated it and it works. So that's all I got so much. I'm not worried about the stragglers and I can't. So just keep sharpening your treatments, and people will. Sometimes, of course, it takes 5-6 treatments for them to notice anything, but most of the time they can feel it right away. And yep, that's the best I can do in that regard.
Is there a way on the scan to differentiate between acute and chronic?
Well, I would use. I always start with this panel here, but generally speaking, once you have covered the basic allergies and the basic infections, then it's time to go to other panels, like the main reactivity and the one I showed you there, and so on.
But still, you will not know when you find infections up, high on the list. You don't know if they're chronic or acute or happening now or in the past or whatever. There is no way to know.
Those are all just general terms, acute and chronic, so you have to correlate your patient history with it. You know, if you find the Epstein-Barr virus and you see in a patient history they have Hashimoto's, they've been on thyroid medication for 20 years, well, guess what? That Epstein-Barr virus is chronic, okay? If you have an 18-year-old that has got a fever and Epstein-Barr virus comes up, or just shows flu symptoms, then it's probably acute.
So it has to be clinical correlation. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I listened to some of your seminars and webinars, and sometimes you say you need to rectify 85 and above, and sometimes you say you need to rectify to 100 to be efficient. If you don't rectify to a certain number, you need to repeat it next time, or you just let go of it?
No, I mean, if it doesn't rectify to 100%, it's obviously a very serious issue, you know, and you want to revisit that. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but you don't only go by the numbers. You also want to revisit it, like the case I just mentioned for Hashimoto's and being on thyroid medication. You know, you want to put that Epstein-Barr virus in the treatments for the next year every time you see that person, in order to keep the immune system focused on removing that virus, whether it comes up in the scan or not.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, yeah, if you want to resolve the condition, if you want to reverse it, it's going to take a while to get rid of that virus, and the immune system is so busy day to day just to keep you alive that, you know, it's not necessarily finding that Epstein-Barr virus is a high priority. I just want to mention one more thing. Rachel was asking about, you know, there's this thing here, this test single item. Now, I don't use that much because I muscle test, okay? But some people like to use it. I wouldn't necessarily just use it I wouldn't base all my decisions on that. But if you, for example, want to make a thing about Dawn, whether the dog hair is an issue, you know, 61%. So these numbers here are always kind of like, you know, 50 is always your kind of middle of the thing, you know. So if it's below 50, I wouldn't even bother. If it's above 50, it's worthwhile, you know, it's an issue and it's worthwhile treating for sure. I mean, you may even want to treat in the 40s, but the more it goes up towards 100, the more serious an issue it is. Okay. But I mean, you already have your scan results here, so testing it every single item here doesn't really make a lot of sense, you know. You want to use other judgments of, you know, so for example, the way we did it here, thinking it through, there's a dog present, dog hair is number one, animal fungus is there too, so probably it's an issue, so we put it in the treatment.